Greetings, this is the instrument sidekick video for the clarinet. Page 16, more EDC songs. Page 16, more EDC songs. Alright, so we've got a little picture to remind us what fingers need to be covering what holes, okay? Remember that as you go from E to D to C to not switch fingers, you actually add fingers, and you need to cover up the holes with the flat part of your finger, okay? And you got to cover up that hole with your thumb right there. All right, so we have a couple new songs that include E, D, and C that you already have hopefully been working on a lot with hot cross buns, and hopefully you've mastered hot cross buns before you do this page. So once you've really got hot cross buns down and you know you've done it a few days and getting it correct, we talk about this page. Now over here, here's a little tip about squeaking, okay? Clarinets and pretty much any reed instrument is known for being kind of squeaky early on. So if you squeak, okay, you make a little beep sound like just really high. I realize it's annoying and we need to work on being able to avoid that. There's a lot of reasons why a squeak happens, but I learned from someone else the phrase leaks cause squeaks, okay? It's usually because there's a leak of air coming out somewhere where it's not supposed to, okay? So that could be that your fingers aren't exactly covering the holes or something. That's mentioned a few down here. But the first thing you want to check is the reed position, okay? Make sure that your reed is on just right there, and it's not too high, not too low, not a little bit to the side, and that there's no chips on the reed, okay? If the reed is chipped, then there's a bit of air coming out where it shouldn't be, okay? Needs to cover up the space just right without sticking out or being too far down, and have no chips, okay? Make sure your ligature is in just the right spot, okay? So if your ligature is in the wrong spot, if your reed is chipped or in the wrong spot, that is the first thing to check. Like 98% of the time, if you're hearing squeaks, there's something wrong up there with the reed, all right? Then you got to make sure you're covering up the holes. If you cover up a hole, let's say I'm trying to play C, and when I went to add my C finger, I moved my second finger just a little bit, and now I'm not covering up the hole with my second finger. That's covered. That's not quite covered. So if I'm half covering up a hole and air's coming out the side there, that would be like a leak. It's going to cause a squeaky sound. Now, if that's the case and that's what caused it, keeping on blowing and fixing it doesn't fix the squeak sound. You actually have to stop, fix it, and restart that sound to get away from the squeak. Could be the embouchure, okay? So if you don't have that thing with your jaw down and this right, okay? If you're letting air come out the side, so if you don't have your embouchure nice and tight, that could be it. And it could be your posture. If you're sitting weird with your posture, the angle of the clarinet is no longer coming out of your mouth in exactly the right way, that could cause a squeak as well. So you have to be sitting right and have good embouchure. But you also have to cover up the holes completely, okay? Another thing I see is people not holding it right with their thumb right there. And if they put their hand too far over, sometimes rather than using the thumb to hold the clarinet up, they'll press their finger against these side keys here and bump one or two of these keys, okay? If you do that, or if you bump this key that's up here when you're trying to cover this hole and you bump this key, or you're not coming all the way around this key right here and you bump that key, okay? Any of those, if they're depressed, they're lifting up other keys and allowing air to come out where we don't want the air, and it's probably going to cause a squeak as well, or make it so you just can't even get the note. All right, so it's very important with clarinet. As easy as it is to remember that this is E, this is D, and this is C, you got to be very specific about covering up those holes and not bumping other keys and having the reed on perfect and in just the right place. Okay, anything else could cause a squeak. All right, now let's get into Mary Had a Little Lamb and Claire de la Lune. Mary Had a Little Lamb starts off a lot like hot cross buns, and because of that, a lot of people start to play hot cross buns. They go E, D, C, and then they want to go back to E like hot cross buns does, but In this case, it goes back to D and then E. So I'm going to play it, and you can feel free to join in. We're a little bit past 5 minutes into the video. So if you need to skip back and play along, that's fine. For now, listen up. And this is how hot cross buns sounds. All right, so that's hot cross buns. All right, so now this is Mary Had a Little Lamb. So we still have that, but instead of going again, now we have to go back to D. And you notice I pause for a moment before I put it down. And then we have Au clair de la lune. Now, Au clair de la lune is a French song. Those are French words. Au clair means the light. De la means of the. And lune means moon. So Au clair de la lune means the light of the moon. So in other words, moonlight. Okay? So